Reptilian shapeshifters are behind ISIS, the Federal Reserve and Sesame Street. This is the False Flag Nation podcast.
And welcome back to a False Flag Nation podcast, Election 2016 update. This is your host, Joe DeMarco. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Mr. William Revere.
Howdy, folks.
And like I said, this is normally the podcast where we delve into conspiracy theories and occult topics, but we got something a little more down to earth for you today. Today is Wednesday, March 2nd. So yesterday was Super Tuesday in the U.S. 2016 election, and this was kind of a turning point in the election if you've been following it, because I think we're getting a much clearer sense of who the nominees for both parties are going to be. What was your take on how things went last night, Will?
Yeah, I was a little surprised with how successful Donald Trump really was. I mean, a few podcasts ago, I had really enforced the idea that Donald Trump was going to fizzle eventually. And, you know, we have yet to see that. And these, the Super Tuesday results are definitely evident of a majority of Republicans that are angry with the establishment. I suppose they're in tune to what Donald Trump is saying. So the official results show that Donald Trump swept the states in question, and they were Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Massachusetts, Tennessee, Vermont, and Virginia. So, and he won by pretty substantial margins too. Honestly, I was not expecting this. I really thought Ted Cruz was going to be the winner on these Super Tuesday results.
Yeah, a lot's changed since the last time we talked about this. I think we did a show about this following the Iowa caucus.
Right.
That was like just about a month ago. But a lot of stuff has gone down. We've seen Jeb Bush has dropped out. We've seen the critical flaws in Markobot's programming, even though that substantial software update he received did allow him to perform a lot better in the most recent debate, but it doesn't seem like it helped him very much, except in the state of Minnesota.
Yes, that's correct.
Rather odd and somewhat disappointing that would happen in the same state that elected the great Jesse Ventura as their governor. But, you know
what was interesting about Marco, too, is a lot of the talking heads in the political world were discussing how Virginia would have, you would have thought that, the close ties to the establishment would have delivered a victory for Marco Rubio in Virginia. Virginia is right near D.C. There's a lot of federal employees. There's a lot of ties to the establishment in not only government, but the Republican Party. And he performed well there, but Donald Trump was still able to secure the victory there. So I think that's one of the biggest signs of an eventual failure for Marco Rubio. If he can't even take Virginia, which is an establishment state, I don't think he's coming close to the victory.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because I used to live in Northern Virginia, a couple miles away from the Pentagon, and you are exactly right. A lot of those people do work for the federal government or for the military-industrial complex. They have a vested interest in essentially maintaining the status quo. They're doing pretty good the way things are, and when you're doing okay, you don't want to rock the boat too much. politically and economically speaking. But even that state, which is prospering under the status quo, at least the northern half of it, where most of the voters are, they went with Trump, and that I think you're exactly right. That's very telling about the general mood of the country. We knew that Trump was doing very well in like southern states and Rust Belt areas that have been hurt by things like NAFTA and globalization in general, which the establishment has championed in the past. But to see that happening in states like Virginia, that's pretty prophetic of where this campaign is headed. And honestly, I could see Trump taking Florida in 2 weeks as well. And if that happens, that's the absolute death blow. Like, Rubio's done.
Right. I think everything was said on the face of Marco Rubio's daughter. If you saw his little conference that he had last night, it was full of energy, and there was a pretty big crowd there, but you saw his daughter standing behind him, and he just had this look like, come on, Dad, really? And it was kind of pathetic, but you feel bad for him a little bit, but really, I don't want Marco Rubio anywhere near the fucking White House.
Yes, sorry about that. That video you were just mentioning started playing on my screen. I heard the sound there for a second, but I saw his little speech last night at his campaign headquarters in Miami, and he was very, very proud about winning one state last night. Minnesota was a big night for Marco. He is 1-13,
right?
Which is
he was on Fox News too. I was watching, unfortunately.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
On Fox News shortly after the majority of the states came in with their results, and he was basically whining that John Kasich and Ben Carson were still in the race, saying that they're taking votes from me, and it's hurting my reputation, it's hurting my poll results. So, he's fizzling right now, and it's very evident.
Yeah, he's like, they're being selfish right now, and he's running on steam right now. He's running on bullshit and empty fumes right now, and the Koch brothers and the GOP Illuminati were desperately pumping all this money and energy into him, just like, all right, Jeb has failed us. We must send this young Cuban boy out here, the one from the foam parties. Yeah, he'll do well out there. And it's just not working. It's just not working. And as far as Kasich and Dr. Carson dropping out,
it's a matter of time, right?
It's it's a matter of time. Like, I would be shocked if we don't hear something either today. We're recording this about 8 a.m, Wednesday, or by Friday that one of them is dropping out. Yeah. At least one. And
it'll probably be Ben Carson first.
He is the lowest. He has 8 electoral votes right now. And it's interesting that you mentioned Marco saying that, because Ted Cruz was saying that last night as well. And he was like, I would like to invite the other candidates to consider doing what's best for the party. It's like, I'm the only candidate that has been able to beat Trump multiple times. He did, to be fair, Cruz did win Texas, as was expected. He was expected to win Texas. That is his state. But that is a big state. That's a lot of electoral votes for him. He won Oklahoma and Alaska as well. And there was his shady win in Iowa about a month ago. So he does have the best track record going against Donald Trump. Having said that, is that still really saying that much? Because if you combined his electoral votes with everyone else, he'd still fall short of beating Trump right now by 4 electoral points. It'd be 281 to 285.
Yeah, I mean, the New World Order must be shaking in their boots right now. I mean, they still, we know that they play both parties, so they still have the Hillary Clinton card that they're able to pull when they need to. But I'm sure that they're looking to hedge their bets with a solid, reliable slave to the New World Order in the Republican Party. So, and as much as I don't like Ted Cruz, I don't think that he fully subscribes to that mentality. Do I think he'll be pushed eventually? Yeah, I do. But he made some interesting comments last night in his speech. Did you hear him talk about abolishing the IRS?
He's been saying that, yeah. And
now, do you think that's just all
that's
smoke and mirrors and just pumping the crowd?
That's campaign talk. The alphabet agencies will not go quietly into the night. They will.
Yeah, I
mean, if anyone seriously attempted to do that to the IRS, people would disappear, or your brakes would mysteriously fail, or you'd be struck by lightning, or some other unfortunate accident would befall you. Trust me,
exactly.
No one likes the IRS. Everyone wants them gone, but it's the roots go so deep.
Right. The IRS is the police force of the Federal Reserve. So,
well, the federal government.
with taxations and whatnot. So.
Oh yeah, no, I get what you're saying. They're the enforcement mechanism, and they are increasingly being used as a weapon.
Literally too. Did you know that most IRS agents are allowed to carry firearms?
That I did not know. Like people that show up to collect taxes, or just people walking to the office, like paper pushers carry sidearms.
The people that are out on the field supposedly are allowed to carry firearms, which makes absolutely no sense to me.
Well, I guess if you're showing up at somebody's ranch claiming they owe taxes, they'll be like, "Show me the law! Show me the law!" Bam, bam, bam. Yeah. All right, so yeah, I could see that, but let's talk about the Democratic side a little bit more, because as you were saying, the establishment likes to hedge their bets very much by hand-picking a candidate in each party that they know they can control, that will behave in a predictable manner once they're in office, and push more or less these general globalist agenda. I like this analogy Dan Carlin had on Common Sense a few podcasts back, where he said that the country as a whole and the government is kind of like a ship sailing on the ocean, and depending on which party is manning the helm, you steer it like 2 or 3 degrees to the right or 2 or 3 degrees to the left. And now over time, you're going to end up going in a very different direction.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, but the change happens so slowly, and because of the term limits and everything for president, it's going to keep going in more or less the same direction, regardless of which president is in control. Now, if Sanders or Trump becomes the president, it's going to turn like 20 degrees to the right or to the left, and then it's going to go in a very different direction than how it's been going the last few decades. And that's what has the puppet masters so freaked out about these two.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think it's tempting to listen to Donald Trump and not and get excited and to subscribe to a lot of the points that he's making, but at least William Revere here is sticking to his libertarian principles, and Donald Trump may be the best candidate out of the potential people running, but he's no libertarian, and he's quite dangerous.
I don't think he ever claimed to be a libertarian.
Right, but I don't know if I could. I honestly don't know if I could vote for him. I really don't think I could. I mean, he made some great comments last night, which sound awesome. But then
he was much more subdued than normal. He was much more calm and seemingly reasonable last night. And
he did make some scary comments about how he's going to rebuild the military. Like, the U.S. military is the most powerful military on Earth. No one is going to fuck with us.
Well,
It doesn't
the
need-
reason people keep saying that is because of the huge defense budget cuts about like 3 or 4 years ago. They cut the it was about 3 years ago. They cut the defense budget in half, roughly.
which doesn't sound like such a bad thing to me.
Well, when you put it in the bigger perspective that the U.S. accounts for like between 25 and 50% of the world's military spending, and has by an order of magnitude the most powerful military on the planet, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But that translates to a lot less money going around for the defense sector.
Right.
And the
contracts
seeming,
for Raytheon.
Yes, exactly, for the various horsemen of the war industry. But that translates into a lot of people feeling like, combined with the less than stellar results in Iraq with ISIS and everything, and the general feeling of pointlessness about the war in Afghanistan, this translates into an overall feeling that the military is in decline and it needs to be made strong again. So that's why you keep hearing people say this, and that's why Trump was saying it too. But,
yeah, I'm just nervous. He's waffling and flip-flopping on Iraq already, and originally he's made some pretty interesting statements saying that he was against the invasion of Iraq, but then he went back and said that he supported the first Iraq war, and he was pissed that Bush didn't go in and finish him off, Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
So, I don't think we really know where Donald Trump stands on his foreign policy and the current war on quote-unquote terrorism. So.
Well, Trump last night was kind of announcing a sort of new brand of conservatism. He called himself a common sense conservative.
Yes,
because he's saying things that are not party line positions. They're sort of a hybrid of what a lot of people, based on primary results, perceive as the good ideas from both sides, and he's kind of making a new hybrid ideology, and essentially saying this is the way of the future. You get on board, or you're getting left behind. And
right.
You're seeing establishment candidates like Chris Christie endorse him. And
yeah,
stuff
that was pretty intense.
Yeah, whether or not that's because his dislike of Marco Rubio, I'm sure that had something to do with it, or because he really thinks that this is the future. I don't, it's time. This is the way the wind is blowing. It's time to get on board with it. I don't know. And speaking of Christie, did you see that press conference or the victory speech where Christie was standing behind?
That was funny. The looks on his face were just like incredible. You had to watch it live to really. Did you see him sweating when he started making, and you just mentioned it, the Planned Parenthood comments about how Planned Parenthood has done a lot of great things for women, which in fairness is true, but they also support fully government-sponsored abortion clinics. So Donald Trump was really dancing on thin ice there, and you could see
he was towing the line. And you could see him kind of squinting, darting his eyes side to side, like, what have I done? It was either that or he was trying to cork in a fart the whole time, and he knew that it would have been, look at that guy, he could clear a room. That would have been like a gastrointestinal tac nuke if he got that out, and Trump would have called him out on it. He would not have hesitated to be like, "Oh, really, Chris? You had to do that here on live TV." So yeah, you could see him struggling to contain that, like that gas leak in Southern California. But that was the latest funny moment in the Trump campaign. But
how do you feel let's switch sides a little bit. How do you
Yeah.
feel about the Democratic results?
Yeah, we started talking about them a few minutes ago.
Yeah, what do you think is the future for Bernie Sanders? And do you think that the super delegates and the establishment is too firmly controlled by the Hillary campaign?
At this point, it's looking like Hillary is going to take the nomination, because previously everyone was saying the same thing, and I was like, all right, hold on, let's you're being a little presumptuous here, because in terms of pledged delegates, they were about the same, but Hillary had a lead with super delegates. But as of today, she has a lead in pledged delegates as well. It's about 50-50. Clinton has 1,001 pledged delegates, or total delegates, about half of which are the super delegates, who are, their job is to ensure that the Democratic Party has a quote-unquote acceptable candidate. And Sanders has a total of 371 candidates. So it's becoming more of a long shot for Sanders, but I think it's possible he could win some key states.
Right, like Washington. What else? The Dakotas, perhaps. Maybe even like a Florida or something like that.
Florida, hard to say with Florida. Hillary's pandering to minorities pretty hard, and it seems to work a lot of the time. Although her campaign to win over one of her campaigns to win over Hispanics kind of backfired a few months ago with her stupid list of like 16 ways Hillary is just like your abuela, which means grandmother in Spanish. And it was like one of these stupid BuzzFeed style lists, and it just got torn apart in the comments. Everyone's saying it was transparently pathetic attempt to win over votes they've ever seen. And there was this hashtag going around called "Not My Abuela," and everyone was mocking her. And of course, this was before Twitter changed their algorithm, so all talk critical of the Queen the Queen Regent is purged from your timeline. So Hillary, I don't know. I could see her taking Florida. I think she's probably going to take Florida, but it's worth noting that the DNC vice chair Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii resigned from her position and formally endorsed Bernie Sanders, and she had a pretty compelling ad endorsing Sanders, saying that Hillary is just going to lead us into more foreign interventionism and wars, and we've had enough of this, and we're in it, blah, 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 and all the other reasons people support Sanders. And I think that could potentially steer a fair amount of votes towards Sanders. Say that someone so high up in the Democratic establishment would defect to him like that.
Yeah, like you said before, I think there is a lot of grassroots support, but will it end up adding up to make Bernie Sanders a competitive candidate? And I don't think so. There's a lot of talk about Bernie Sanders getting the quote-unquote young vote, but young people don't vote. They really don't. The people who vote are the elderly and the people over 50. Those people turn out to the polls.
Historically, this election could be different.
Certainly the Obama election.
That got a lot of young people.
That got a lot of young votes, but I don't know if Bernie Sanders has that amount of energy. Literally either. He's what, fucking...
He's 74.
78?
He's 74. He'll be 75 if he wins and is sworn into the office, which would be the oldest president ever. I don't know. I kind of see him... I could see him running as an independent, because he is a registered independent. If Hillary gets the nomination, he could just be like, I'm not going to give up I'll just
Yeah,
run as a third-party candidate just to prove a point.
and you know that could that could split votes three ways, and who knows what could happen in the real election.
If that were to happen, whoever the Republican candidate is would probably win.
Yeah, because the Democrats would be split.
Yeah.
Now, you know, what I was thinking was, it's a little bit too early to start talking about this, but vice presidential candidates. I mean, what do you think? What do you think is a smart choice for Clinton / Bernie Sanders, and how about Donald Trump / Ted Cruz? Do you think that Hillary could turn around and say, you know, a lot of the results are so close with Bernie, why not just join forces and have him run for vice president with me? Once I get elected, I'll have him bumped off by the Illuminati, and then I'll get fucking some other Washington warmonger to join sides with me.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something like that's possible? And who do you think Donald Trump would choose as his vice president?
I don't see Hillary picking Bernie Sanders as her vice presidential candidate. I think it's an interesting theory. Not likely. I think she'll pick. I think she'll probably pick a minority male as her running mate, like a Hispanic guy or a black guy, and then because that's one of the essence of her campaign. Her campaign is identity politics, because her campaign doesn't have a message. Like what is Hillary Clinton's message? What is inspiring about her campaign? Nothing.
Yeah, you're right.
She's running. Her campaign is, I'm going to maintain the legacy of Barack Obama. She's running on the status quo, which everyone is angry about. So that's her platform. She's running on, I'm a woman and brand recognition, the Clinton name. So
yeah.
in order to spice things up a bit, I guess I could see her picking like some, I don't know, find some junior senator from some state that nobody knows about. He's not really a nationally known figure. And again, a minority male, and have that as her running mate.
Yeah, I could see that happening too. You know who's getting a lot of media attention recently is that black Democratic senator, what the hell's his name? Booker or something like that. He's
Not Booker
younger
T. Washington.
He's a younger black senator, and he's all over the media. So maybe the powers that be are already prepping this guy to potentially take over as vice president, which would be interesting because that, I think you're right. That could seal the deal for a Democratic victory.
Is this Cory Booker? From
Yes,
New Jersey?
yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, he's pretty young, 46 years old. New Jersey.
Young, energetic black guy.
He won in 2012. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think, him paired with the establishment / experience of a Hillary Clinton could be a recipe for a V for the Democrats if they did play it right.
It's possible. It's possible. I'm looking at his Twitter feed right now. He doesn't seem to be commenting on the election that much. His last post seems to be about dog fighting. But
really staying in the current events, I see.
Yeah. But it could be similar to what you saw with Barack Obama, where he's sort of like slowly creeping into the public consciousness with his speech in the 2004 convention, and then suddenly, boom, he's everywhere. And a mere 4 years earlier, everyone was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he is a one-term senator, so it's not unheard of that he would become the
one-term senator.
Yeah, end up working in the White House. But
what about Donald Trump?
Donald Trump, there's a lot of talk that he was going to pick Chris Christie as a potential running mate. I think it's possible. I think it's definitely possible. I think theoretically, he could do well if he did that, because Chris Christie is, he's more, again, he's a little more mainstream than Donald Trump. And the people that have been freaked out by Donald Trump's non-establishment positions could be potentially won over like that. Some of the former Jeb Bush supporters could be convinced to vote for a Trump Christie ticket.
I don't know about that. I think Donald Trump is a more successful, more electable version of Chris Christie. So I don't know if they would. I don't know if they'd have two of the same running. You know what I'm saying? It seems like Chris Christie was the outspoken, loudmouth, in your face kind of guy, but Donald Trump did a better job of that role.
Well, because that's what's kind of working for Donald Trump. He makes these statements, and the more the media and people attack him, the stronger he gets. He's an anti-fragile candidate. And Christie has that same thing, but he's not quite as extreme as Trump is. And in the general election, I predict he's gonna tone down the rhetoric a little bit, because like any election, in the general election, the candidates on both sides have to win over the undecided voters, so they tone down the rhetoric a little bit. But I don't know. I think it's possible. I think if he doesn't pick him as vice president, there's going to be Chris Christie will end up in his cabinet if he wins.
Yeah, I could see that.
I could see him as chief of staff or something like that in the White House. But there was talk of some rumors going around of former Marine Corps General Mattis as his running mate. He has some pretty hilarious quotes if you look this guy up. And a lot of veterans have wanted him to run for president for a long time, but he has said he didn't want to. He doesn't think he would do well in the politically correct culture of Washington. But that could change. It seems the country is tired of political correctness. So maybe. Plus, there's the aspect of him having a veteran and a highly ranking military person on his side, because if theoretically, if the Illuminati took out a President Trump, they'd have that guy as the president, and then there'd be like a full-blown police state there, or military dictatorship. True. So which they wouldn't want either, or maybe they would. I don't know, but I don't think they would.
That was an interesting point you said, and I think that this election is probably a great example. Donald Trump, which we believe does not have the backing of the powerful elite. If he does somehow make it to the White House, do you think that there will be an attempt on his life?
Yes, I do.
I'm pretty sure as well. And I think it'll be disguised as an angry, like a racial thing, but it'll really be like that person will just be a patsy for, the elites in power.
Yeah, they will have like a crazed, like, former Black Panthers member who is recently released from jail and was disavowed by the group formally, so none of the blame falls back on them. He'll do it, and it'll be portrayed as like a lone wolf attack, and then he'll be quietly disposed of, like Oswald, shortly afterward, or it'll be like some radical Chicano nationalist or something like that. I just it's inconceivable to me that there would not be some at least attempt. I don't think it probably not successful, but there's no way they would just allow Trump to do some of the things he's proposing. And Trump, I know, does not have the legal authority to do some of the things he's proposing. So, but the last president that seriously tried to challenge the moneyed elites was JFK, and we all know what happened to him.
Uh-huh.
And he said, one of his quotes was, there is a vast conspiracy in the government. This is not a verbatim quote, against the American people within institutions of government, and he was referring to the intelligence agencies and things like that. He's like, and I intend to expose this before the end of the presidency, and pop.
Yeah, and his refusal for the Bay of Pigs invasion, which could have possibly led to World War III, was another swipe at the military-industrial complex.
Well, there were some that perceived that as being weak on communism.
Right, but actually, it was just common sense.
Yeah, looking back, Kennedy kept a cool head, and he pretty much averted us having a nuclear war.
Right.
There was a ship that actually fired at the Soviet ship approaching Cuba. No one ordered them to do that. They just did. And Kennedy was furious about that and ordered them not to do that because he could, it could have started a world war. But we got way off topic here. But, I just don't, it's either going to be something like that. We're assuming that Trump would win in this conversation. I could see something. There's some sort of attempt being made against him on the campaign trail. They might try to pull a Bobby Kennedy on him, if you know what I mean.
Right. There's just been a False Flag Nation news alert here.
Ooh.
Yes, I'm going to be reporting that the Facebook vice president has just been arrested because of failure to release files to the FBI. This is fascinating. Wow.
Failure to release files for...
It looks like, and this is just breaking now according to New York Times, this is possibly related to the Apple's victory over the FBI in terms of their ability to hack the phones, the iPhones. It looks like this vice president at Facebook somehow was challenging the FBI and didn't allow for data to be shared with the FBI, so he's somehow being scooped up. This is interesting. This is something we'll be commenting on in the future.
Yeah.
And that's something I want to get into on the next podcast as well, the battle between private corporations and the FBI in terms of national security.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Looks like they're under investigation in Germany, too, so we'll be investigating that as well. But getting back on topic, do you see any hope at all for the other candidates? Or is it just Trump? Do you see this as a done deal, Trump and Hillary?
Final thoughts. After the Super Tuesday results, I'm more prone to say that Donald Trump will be the Republican pick. I originally had thought that the powers that be were going to halt this way earlier, but it seems like he's really got some momentum. So I'm going to go ahead and change my previous view that Ted Cruz would be the candidate. And I'm going to say that it's, 99% going to be Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And as far as Democrats, it's looking more and more like Hillary is going to be the chosen one.
Yeah, I would say that Hillary is the Democratic nominee. I give it a 25% chance that Sanders chooses to run as an independent, and he will take a fair amount of votes away from Hillary if he does that. As far as the Republicans go, I'd say at this point, 75% chance Donald Trump is the Republican nominee. If, and this is a big if, so maybe I should bump this up to 80, 85%. If everyone else drops out, Ted Cruz might be able to pull off some key victories in the next few weeks, and eke out a lead over
That's a good
over
point.
Trump.
That's a good point. If we see Marco Bot finally get out of the race, and John Kasich and Ben Carson, those guys might not necessarily go for Donald Trump. So that's a great point. We'll see what happens.
I think we're going to see Trump. We're going to see Carson and Kasich drop out soon. Which Carson just looks so peaceful when he's talking. Someone needs to put him to bed. He needs to rest. And Kasich's hands, I'm sure, are tired from all the furious gesturing over the last 9 months. But there's a follow him at John Kasich's hands on Twitter. But that's a real thing.
Oh my God.
Rubio's going to lose Florida, I predict, and then he'll drop out, and then it'll be Cruz and Trump. Yeah, again, if Cruz can pull off some key victories like California, what have you, he could potentially eke out a lead over Trump. But it's a long haul. So that's pretty much where I stand with that. I don't see Cruz being the VP pick. Well, I don't know.
That might be a strategic move, and I was going to mention that earlier.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz is not only popular, but he's also more of a politician than Donald, obviously. Yeah. So that might be a strategic for Donald, because
he's kind of seen as the next best thing if Trump wasn't there.
Right.
A lot of Trump supporters would go to if Trump just disappeared tomorrow, if he had a heart attack or something. A lot of people, those people supporting him, would go to Cruz. So yeah, it's possible. It's possible. But yeah, that's pretty much where I stand with this. Anything else you want to throw in before we wrap this up, Will?
No, I think that's it. I think the results are pretty clear. We're going to see a win by Donald Trump and by Clinton.
Yep. We will.
So, I think we're just about at time now. So, any other closing thoughts?
No, I think that's pretty much where we stand with this election right now. We will keep you posted on the status of Rubio's concession speech foam party in Miami 2 weeks from now. I think tickets go on sale soon, so if you use the promo code false flag at the website, you will get 10% off. But that is all for this week. Follow us on Twitter at falseflagnation.com. Like us on Facebook and visit our official website, www.falseflagnation.com, for show notes and more. That is all we have for this week. This is Joe DeMarco signing off.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
All right, take it easy, folks. Thanks for tuning in.